This whole interview with Laura Kuenssberg and Nigel Farage was a complete car crash. It taught me he doesn't do maths, he doesn't understand economics, he doesn't even understand climate change. Farage starts off by complaining about there being overpopulation.
An increase of the population by 10 million has left us completely incapable of coping.
In reality, Britain is aging, shrinking, and running out of workers to fund pensions, care homes, and the NHS. As of 2025, the UK birth rate is at 1.44. For it to be healthy in a capitalist system, it needs to be at between 2.4 and 2.7. That means we're just not having enough children. And that's part of the reason why we have such a labour shortage in the NHS, in social care, and across the UK. What that also means is that we're about 10 to 25 million short by my estimates. Yes, that's right. If the UK population had been growing at a healthy rate, we are short by 10 to 25 million. We're not overpopulated, we're understaffed. And when people say, oh, there's not enough space and room, I turn around and say, did you know that the urbanised area of the UK is 6.8%? You heard me right. 93% of the UK is f***ing empty. And Farage is sat there telling everyone who's listening that the place is full. But it gets better because it turns out that only 1.5% of the UK has residential buildings on it. The rest is f***ing empty. Nigel has never been about saving Britain, it's about selling fear. Or as I like to call it, manufacturing fear, which is my latest book, link in the description and in the comments. But we're far from done yet because Nigel wants to run Britain like a corporation. Some might even just say a business.
Companies have been badly run. I think we know all of that. We would look for private sector investment. The government can be a partner. It's all about what deal you strike, isn't it? And I mean, this is, to some extent, what we're saying across the board.
When Nigel's talking about this, he's actually in reference to the seas and oceans being maintained not by private companies, but a collab between private and public. We'll come back to the stupidity of his reference here, but what I actually want to focus on is government. Government exists to serve the public good, ensuring welfare, justice, infrastructure, education, and safety. Business exists to make profit for shareholders. So it is absolutely wild that Nigel picks the point to talk about this attitude and understanding for government when talking about water, which has been exclusively run by private business and wrecked beyond imagination.
I've just spoken to a lifeguard here who says that the red flags have now been taken down because the pollution levels are now deemed to be safe. But he's not personally recommending it to people who ask him because he says not that long ago, it still just didn't smell right.
And there's also one other thing that Nigel is obviously associated with that has caused part of this problem, and that's Brexit. But of course, Kuenssberg isn't going to address that.
The reason why the government relaxed legislation on releasing raw sewage into our sea is because they can't get the chemicals to treat the raw sewage to the water companies because there aren't enough lorry drivers. And the reason there aren't enough lorry drivers is because we don't allow foreign people to work in the country anymore. But because of Brexit, we don't have the chemicals. I mean, a lot of people will argue that it's not because of Brexit, but nowhere else has a problem with it apart from us. So it's Brexit.
We know. So here's Nigel's fantastic plan to fix all the sewage being pumped into our seas and rivers.
Is we need more people running government with genuine business experience.
But the business experience and people who've looked at this carefully, DEFRA and Ofwat, the regulators, say that the cost of nationalisation. Don't forget, let me ask you this question. The estimate of the cost of nationalisation is £99 billion. So would you be willing to spend £50 billion of taxpayers' money to take water into national control?
I'm sorry. DEFRA and Ofwat are part of the problem. Everybody thinks the same. It's public sector thinking. We need private sector innovation. We need people coming into politics, doing things from outside the normal.
But how much taxpayers' money would you be prepared to spend to take half of the water industry into public control? That's the question.
Well, one thing we must not do is bail out any existing bondholders or shareholders. That absolutely has to be part of the deal.
So shareholders would be expected to give the companies to the government and the taxpayer for free without being compensated.
If we live, We got all this wrong back in 2008.
So essentially, if it was the right people in his mind, he would have the people that dumped all that sewage into the Thames and around our seas in government to fix the problem that they created. And then he'd rescind anyone who invested in those companies' stocks. But does he have a price? Does he know what it'll cost?
How much of our viewers' money you would be prepared to spend on that? Because the credible estimate is it would be about £50 billion.
Well, I think it'd be a lot less than that if you strike the right deal.
How much?
I don't know. I haven't sat in the negotiations.
Interestingly, Nigel has said this type of stuff before. He said it about the Trump administration and the UK getting a trade deal.
What I saw with the Trump team were people who came from the private sector, not from the public sector, where time is money. And they said, do you know what? We can get this done and dusted in 90 days. Now look, whether it takes 90 days or 120 days isn't the issue. The point I'm making is that this new administration here has a can-do attitude of people who are not public sector, they're not 9 to 5, they're people that will work 24/7 to get things done. The point is this, the Trump incoming presidency, his administration, is offering our country a gift, a great gift. Not just for business, not just for trade, not just for investment, but actually to strengthen our hand in negotiating with the European Union. If 90 days is too optimistic, believe me, it's nearer 90 days than Ivan Rogers' 10 years.
Except it's coming up to 10 years, we haven't got a deal, and if anyone tries to cite the deal that we have recently, well, that was because Trump strong-armed the UK with threats of tariffs, got those tariffs reduced, but then got access to the UK market. That's not a deal. That's daylight robbery. That's strong-arming the UK, and the UK having no response. Whereas currently the EU have got plans to push back with their own tariffs if Trump continues on his path.
But a completely different mindset is needed if you incentivize private capital to come in and do the job properly.
But private capital runs it at the moment, and they haven't invested enough.
Of course, listen, all sorts of people set up businesses and fail. There are more business failures than there are successes. This model hasn't worked. Let's get some new people in. And I tell you what, the money would come.
He just shot his own argument. He shot it down by saying businesses fail all the time. What is this?
When Jeremy Corbyn talked about nationalising water, you used to say his economics were from La La Land. So why is your proposal not from La La Land?
Look, we have Conservative and Labour governments who can't even build a railway. You know, so do we want government running these things? No, but does the state need to get some degree of control over vital national assets? Yes.
It's the same old thing with Nigel. He'll come up with a grand plan, but when it comes down to the detail, he'll have zero understanding and he'll have zero planning in place. There's more though.
A 19-year-old in your party is now the leader of Warwickshire Council in charge of a budget of £500 million. He wants to spend £190,000 on hiring political assistants. Is that a good use of taxpayers' money?
Party of cuts, except when relevant to him and his party. And then once again we go down the conspiracy rabbit hole with Nigel.
Well, at the moment we're finding that we're very, very hamstrung. We're going into existing administrations. We're facing obstructionism in many places. And Warwickshire, a very, very good example. The CEO willfully.
The establishment is out to get Nigel, but he's been saying that for decades.
Our foreign policy is going to be about climate change. It's all assuming that climate change, global warming is happening and will continue to happen.
Climate change is happening, and happening fast.
We are seeing the impacts of climate change now play out in real time. They're no longer subtle.
All the time that Nigel tried to defend bleach comments made by Trump during COVID.
Grow up and stop being fake news. He never said bleach.
Okay, I'll tell you what, let's just play the clip. You say he didn't say use disinfectant bleach. This is what he said.
It's interesting. Right, and then I see the disinfectant where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? Because you see it gets on the lungs and it does a tremendous number of the lungs. So it'd be interesting to check that, so that you're going to have to use medical doctors.
Sorry, Nigel, have I made that up?
Yes.
Okay.
We just saw the clip.
No, it's okay. It's okay. If you think
I'm sorry,
honestly,
you are sinking to the gutter by talking about bleach. You know you are.
So
Yet you
Donald
won't
Trump
back
was talking about bleach.
And of course, with all the climate change denial, he's now doing a big thing of cutting anything to do with net zero in his councils, including flood protection.
In Lincolnshire, for example, where the council's got rid of the floods committee, except there have been floods.
Yeah. Well, who says the flood committee would do any good?
I'm sorry, Lincolnshire. You voted in a bunch of crazy moron conspiracy theorists. Like, you've got floods and then get rid of the flood committee. You couldn't make it up.
Well, do you believe in man-made climate change?
Well, do I believe there's climate change? Yes. Does man have an influence? Impossible to think we haven't got some influence. As to what proportion it is, I've no idea.
But as a simple question of
no,
principle,
I know.
do you believe in
This is
man-made
not my
climate
religion.
change?
This is not my religion. I know it's the religion of Westminster now in a fairly godless age. It's not my religion. The real point about it is, are we going to deindustrialize Britain? There are 2.5 million manufacturing jobs left in Britain that are under threat and could be gone within the next decade unless we change direction, and that particularly relates to energy policy.
So Farage calls climate change a religion, says man might have some influence, but it's not worth acting on. The UK faces 100 billion in flood damage a year by 2050. 1 in 4 homes will be at risk, and green jobs are growing faster than fossil fuel jobs, and Farage wants to gut them. This is not a man of the future. This is not a man who's going to be able to deal with the problems of climate change and AI. This is a man who wants to bury his head in the past. I'm not even sure he could deal with a calculator. I doubt he could even run a bath. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you've gotten this far in the video, I must have done something right, so please hit that like and subscribe button. And just a quick heads up, my book Manufactured Fear is finally out. It breaks down how figures like Farage use fear to control the narrative. Check it out, link below. Once again, I'd like to say a big thank you to all of my Patreon and YouTube subscribers, as well as those who have bought me coffee this week. Thank you so much. And once again, to all of you who are listening, thanks for listening. Bye for now.